Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas and Marks with your host, Joe Staszak, my man, Steve Kallas, in the house. Only 214 days until the NFL season kicks off, Steve. That's not too bad, huh? There's 314 till Christmas, but so
Boy,
214 doesn't seem all that bad. That's painful when I looked at up. September 10th, 2026. Oy. How are you? First podcast in a while, post football. But we are going to start with football. I know the Olympics are going on in Milan and a lot of good stuff happening there, but football still is king, just like cash. John Harbaugh going to your Giants. I think you're kind of with me on that. Like, what has he won lately with the talent he's had as well? Like Nick Sirianni's about to get ridden out of town after 5 years and two Super Bowl appearances because of the talent they have and not being able to do it this year. Maybe two collapses in the last 3 years, but John Harbaugh hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2012, and that's a long time. That's what 14 years, and he's had Lamar Jackson, a two-time MVP. They gave him Derrick Henry. He's always had a pretty good defense, although that's waned a little bit. Your thoughts on him going to taking over the G-Men?
well, I think the interesting question, had he waited, the interesting question was, so suppose they had offered him the Bills job. If you're a win now guy, you're going to take the Bills.
You want to go where that
Or you're gonna take the
quarterback
Giants.
is.
So do I think Harbaugh can make the Giants competitive? Yeah, I do. I think the Giants can be competitive now. They have a quarterback. I'm not prepared to say he's a franchise quarterback, but he's real good. And I'm afraid if he keeps running the way he's been running, remember when he got knocked out and he said, "Oh, I'm going to play the way I play," and blah, blah, blah.
He's got it. Yeah, I
He,
think he took too
he,
many hits
he's
before he said that.
right. He's not Josh Allen, so he can't
Oh,
absorb that stuff either.
Jackson Dart. Yeah.
But it's what you just said. I mean, Harbaugh is a good coach. He's had success, but it's mostly regular season success other than the Super Bowl. And I look, I think it's good for the Giants. It would be interesting. You'll never get the truth from him if somebody asked him now, oh, if you had waited for the Bills job, would you have taken it? He's not going to say yes, even if the answer is
Oh,
yes.
right. Of course not. Right.
So, do I think it's a step up? Yeah, I do think it's a step up. Do I think the GM should have been out the door with Dable, or certainly at the end of the year? Yeah, I do. I don't know who he talked to. He probably said, "Oh, look, I drafted a quarterback for you. I got a running back for you. I drafted an all-pro, all of whom are hurt, all of whom get hurt, all and concussions." And so you got to be extra careful nowadays. And I don't know if that's really gonna get to the quarterback. I just don't know. So don't get me wrong, it's compared to what they had. I think it's a real good hire. But I thought the interesting fact was he would have been number one on the list, I think, for the Bills if they were going to go outside. Of course, they took Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator. But I think it's good for the Giants. Do I think we'll be competitive? I hate that when they, oh, will be. I think the Giants will be obviously better. They have a pretty good defense. And if all these guys are healthy, I think, they'll be better, but they'll be better as what? When don't win those two games at the end of the year?
No, I hear you. Your son always makes salient points, and he said that some teams are just so desperate to get back to respectability, or at
Right.
least that they'll take competitive with the upside, maybe with being a Super Bowl, and that's why they go with John Harbaugh there. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm not an owner. I would certainly shoot for a guy who I think is going to take me to the next level. A lot of teams are going with the young guys. You know what I mean? We're back to the Sean
Yeah.
McVay. The young kids, and John Harbaugh's a retread of the old guard a little bit.
Correct.
But he does. I mean, he's a good coach. He's well liked by his team. He's a CEO type of head coach, but he has struggled, whether it's his kicker going south or the defense not quite playing up to snuff, his quarterback turning the ball over too much in the playoffs. I don't know if that can get turned around. I'm not even sure that's his fault. Some Lamar. I mean, we know what he is in the postseason. I don't quite get that either. Maybe he tries to do too much. But there are not too many quarterbacks out there who have won Super Bowls. I know we criticized Lamar and Josh Allen and whatnot, but there's only a few out there. And one of them is getting ready. They're about ready to ride him out of Philly. If you don't win a Super Bowl, apparently like every other year now, you're gone. Jalen Hurts is just getting
Wow,
pounded.
super tough town, as you know. I mean, New York's a tough town, but I think when it comes to fan bases, Philly's even tougher,
I think
frankly.
Philly's a little tougher on their guys. I mean,
I think you're right.
I think they're. I went to New York to that game. To that game, I went to MetLife a long time in 2010, where Deshaun ran back the punt to end the game. Tom Coughlin was there. I thought the fans were extremely polite and courteous, and I was waiting to get pummeled with stuff when I was walking through. They were so nice. Security guards were nice. I was like, "Where am I? This is like heaven." I come to Philly, even
Hysterical.
the ones that know me,
Hysterical.
it's
The one other thing I wanted to mention, because it didn't happen until after the Super Bowl, as expected, Clint Kubiak is the coach of the Raiders, and I think he said he's had a conversation with Max Crosby. If I was Max Crosby, I would have thought about saying, "Screw that, trade me." After, they essentially
get me out of here.
decided openly we're going to dump. And to their credit, unlike the Giants, they got the job done. But
Yeah, right.
you kind of need Max Crosby. You're going to get the number one pick. I guess the consensus is what? They're taking the Indiana quarterback for sure. Uh,
Fernando Mendoza, yeah.
so, I like Clint Kubiak. He certainly did a heck of a job, and so that's just the other one I was noticing again, only because he couldn't be hired till I think it was the day after the Super Bowl he was hired.
That's
So
correct.
but that's still, they have some talent, but they don't have a lot of talent. So I think that's going to be a tough job. But you get the quarterback of your choice, and hopefully for them can talk Max Crosby into staying. Because if he walks out, as I thought he would when all this happened, I mean, he said, "I'm going to go home then. If you're not playing me, I'm out of here." And I don't think he was there for the final game or
No, he
two.
wasn't. And there's, some speculation his knee was hurt since week whatever, and
Right.
they probably were like,
Right.
well, listen, we got to make sure we're going to tank here, because other teams don't, and they lose. You see guys like the Jets at times and the Giants at times, and that could set you back many years, not getting the quarterback maybe you need. Well, they're in a position where they can get the Heisman Trophy winner. Whether he's the right pick or not, I don't know. I like, I it was great, in the last couple of years, especially this last year at Indiana. I didn't throw a lot in the championship game, made the plays he needed to make, but so and they got a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator now to run their squad. I don't know. They need players in Vegas, and Max Crosby. I can understand his frustration. I'd want out. I think
Yeah.
if I was Max Crosby.
And Joe, if I could just do one college thing, I don't do too much college football, but I'm sure you heard. Did you hear about the Trinidad Chambliss court case?
He's
Did you hear?
now eligible for his like 13th year or something.
Well,
Yeah.
it's for his sixth year, but the fascinating thing is, they went. The NCAA said he couldn't have it, so he decided to go to court, state court in Mississippi, and it turned out that the judge hearing the case is an Ole Miss graduate. So
Oh, of course he is.
what do you think the results of the trial?
I
Now,
think
I don't know if they will, because that would be really spiteful, I think. But the NCAA has the right to appeal, because they said he couldn't reach the medical, whatever that status, whatever that height is, to get a sixth year.
medical red shirt year, yeah.
Right. And so, they decided intelligently, Ole Miss and Chambliss decided to sue. Has to be in Mississippi State Court because it's Ole Miss. And just happened. I don't know if it just happened. I don't know what the law is down there, how it works, but they happen to get a judge, who obviously is a Mississippi guy. It's a Mississippi State Court, and just turns out to be an Ole Miss grad. So if only we could have bet somewhere on that, Joe, we might have.
Right? That would have
But now
been
again, the NCAA didn't announce whether they're going to appeal or not. I think it'd be kind of spiteful though if they do appeal. That would not
a
help
little
them.
bit. I
Right.
think it would be just, he's fabulous. If I was Ole Miss, I'd be pretty psyched about getting him back.
100%.
What
But
he
just
did against Georgia and almost beating Miami, I think he's fabulous. He's got a big arm, can run, he's very instinctive, and good for Ole Miss. So
yeah.
we shall see. But some other coaches moving around in the National Football League. Can you explain to me why Cliff Kingsbury, with all the openings out there, goes to? Does he like the West Coast or something? He's on Sean McVay's staff. I didn't even see a title for him. There were positions left and right open for Cliff Kingsbury. I wanted him here in Philly. We got Sean Mannion, who's been a coach for a year, was playing 2 years ago, and we'll see what he is. But Cliff Kingsbury, I think, is an asset, and he's with Sean McVay now.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think he can really mess with Sean McVay, but it always seemed to me he wanted to be that next guy up. And I think he's a real good coach. I think you're right. It's kind of surprising. But I'll just point to Buddy to Buddy Ryan, to Ryan, who used to coach the Jets, who said, "How could you not call up Bill Belichick? No matter who you are, if you're looking for a coach, how could you not call him up?" I assume he would say no. But I think he has a point, Rex Ryan, because
Why do you think people are staying away? Age? I mean,
could be age, could be everybody knows if he comes in, he's running the show from top to bottom. You could
yeah,
have the
and
GM with
owners
Cole.
don't like, and GMs don't like to give up too much power.
Exactly. So, but I'm still surprised if I had a football team and I had an opening, I would call him. I don't know if he's had any interest or not. I don't know what his contract. It's like 10 million a year in North Carolina, but he had a pretty bad year. They thought he was going to do better than he did, but we'll see. You need a year or two of
Of course,
recruiting.
it's his first year with the team. He's got to get his
Exactly.
guys in. It's
Exactly. So, whatever. It is what it is.
it is what it is. Let's switch to the NBA a little bit. There's a lot of tanking going on now. It's not even the All Star break yet. Guys are Utah's tanking, and there's a big thing about that. But
Can I just
um,
read this thing about Utah?
I mean, I saw interviews after the game.
This is from
Oh yeah, you
yesterday.
can read it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is from yesterday. The NBA announced today that it has fined two teams related to the management of their rosters for recent games. Utah Jazz has been fined 500,000 for conduct detrimental to the league related to the team's games against Orlando on February 7th and Miami on February 9th. During those games, the Jazz removed two of the team's top players, Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr., before the beginning of the fourth quarter and did not return them to the game, even though these players were otherwise able to continue to play, and the outcomes of the games were thereafter in doubt. Now, I'd love to hear, and I don't think it's come out yet because this just happened. I'd love to hear, well, what's their defense? What are they going to say?
Maybe
One
the
guy
coach
had
had the under on like prop bets or something.
no, but one guy had a bad ankle, and the other guy said he wasn't feeling well. I don't know, but that strikes me as a bit of a slippery slope. Now you have to be real careful when you keep your top players out,
Sure.
even if it's for a quarter, as we just saw. I mean, there's a quarter and a little bit in that
They
game.
still won the game too. That's amazing. They still won the game. Bam Adebayo from Miami was interviewed afterwards. She's like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't
We have to
know.
be better as a team to close out games where we're playing against teams.
I
I'm trying to
don't.
win.
That's fantastic. But I don't know if the NBA is looking at that from a gambling perspective because you're always now more every sport, you see so many gambling commercials, it's
Right.
sickening.
Oh,
I
it's
don't see
sickening.
I don't see any about, you see in mini script at the bottom, oh, if you have a gambling problem, call this number. But
Ridiculous.
but other than that, and it's incredible to me how if you remember David Stern in the old days, we'd never do that. That's disgusting. And how could we do that? Blah, 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 blah. And then like that, once it became legal, everybody flipped.
Everybody
And
flipped.
and and we won't know for years, in my opinion, we won't know the true how many people are going into Gamblers Anonymous now as opposed to a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And look, I'm not a gambler, but I'll say this. If you can still find a good bookie, you're better off with a good bookie.
Hmm.
If you trust them, that's a big if, because your odds are simply better because they don't have to pay taxes to the states.
Right. Right. Totally.
I find it really interesting now. Every football show we watched, they're picking who's going to get over 73.5 yards. Can that quarterback throw for 195.5 yards? It's kind of changed the way you watch games if you gamble. I mean, I don't even understand the in-game stuff. It's too complicated for me. But the notion that you could bet every play, over under for a quarter or a half, I think it's
As it's
way over the
live, you're
top.
just you're just sitting there on your thing going, boom. Oh, here's one. Boom. Over under in the second quarter. Oh, now the halftime line changed because it's crazy.
Hmm.
And then they have the commercial like the Kenny Rogers, no one to hold, no one to fold. Oh, you're telling us to be careful, but you're advertising the hell out of, what I mean? It's such
Yeah.
the dichotomy and the hypocrisy is just To me, it's
Yeah.
infuriating.
The main thing I wanted to talk about in the NBA, and this is from Tuesday night. I understand we're doing this on Friday, but the Spurs beat the Lakers 136 to 108, and Wembanyama had 25 points in the first quarter, 37 at the half. And this is the first time this has ever come into my mind, and tell me if you even see it, because maybe I'm just a dreamer. If there's one guy who played in the NBA since Will Chamberlain who could score 100 points in a game, I think it might be
I
Wembanyama.
think it's
Why do I
Wemby.
say that? He had 25 in the first quarter. He played 7 minutes and 59 seconds of the first quarter. And he
How many?
had,
How many minutes you play?
in the first quarter, 7 minutes, 59 seconds, 25 points. And by halftime, he had 37. Now, somebody asked him after the game because he only scored 40. He hardly played in the second half.
Sure.
And so somebody asked him after the game, so are you worried? Because, you could have gone for 60 or 70. You had 40 at the half, blah, blah, blah. And he's very cool and very smart, this guy. And he said, I'd like a chance to play, but, frankly, we got to look at the big picture and they're just protecting me. And he
Right.
said all the right things, but deep down, I think this guy could score whatever he wanted. I think I told you once, Dick Barnett from the Knicks championship teams. They asked him about Oscar Robertson. Barnett, unfortunately, has passed away, but he was like in his 80s when they asked him this, and he said, first thing you got to know about Oscar, if he wanted to, he could average 50 a game. I think
Hmm.
this guy, if he wanted to, could easily average 40,
He's
maybe
that good.
50
He's
a
that
game.
good.
So I think he's that good, and we'll see what happens. It's the old he has to stay healthy. He already had that problem last year. The big thing for all of these teams, especially now that we're at the All-Star break, is health. Who's going to be healthy at the end? Yesterday, I just wrote down about this game, Joe. Yesterday, the Bucks against OKC. That should be a great game, right? It should be the Greek against SGA, and of course, the Greek is hurt. SGA is hurt. Jalen Williams had a hamstring the other day, and remember how good he was last year when they won the championship. So you're watching these kinds of games, and all you're looking at is these guys need the rest? Is it one of these? We're not going to play these guys. How about looking at that from a gambling perspective? Well, these guys are all hurt, and I guess they could prove they were hurt. Um, but I find it just very interesting that in all the sports, we've talked about this for years, and I mean, a lot of other people too. Don't get me wrong, but the number one thing for your team now is what? Any team, anywhere, it's health. Are
Hmm.
you healthy? Are you really healthy? Are your star players healthy? And if they're not, you know, if they're not, you're playing a backup quarterback against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game.
Hmm.
So
No, you're right.
the other game I did want to talk about, and LeBron, who's breaking, he's playing at such a high level at the age of 41, I think he is now.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is from yesterday. The Lakers beat the Mavs 124-104. Same kind of thing. No Cooper Flag for the Mavs, no Luca for the Lakers. I'm not saying they're not getting hurt. Reeves is out for a few weeks. Uh, but the Lakers win. The Lakers are 33 and 21. I give them a lot of credit. The Mavs are falling off a cliff, 19 and 35. Um, but two records for LeBron. It's his fourth straight game with 10 plus assists at 40 or older. And the record was held by John Stockton, who had done it three times. Now LeBron has done it four times in a row. Yesterday, 28 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. He's the oldest player to record a triple double, uh, surpassing Karl Malone age-wise. And LeBron has already had three triple doubles since he turned 40. So these are incredible numbers. LeBron, and God bless him, he spent $1 million a year to have all those tubes in his house or whatever he was. And I'll say it forever: Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Walt Frazier, they never had a chance.
Right. No, you're right. I heard him say yesterday. He's like, "Why wouldn't I be talking to a reporter? Why wouldn't I be happy? They pay me to play basketball. Like,
And
I don't
and
know
the
what they
final
were
thing
asking
I'll
me."
say for LeBron, he's got 64 triple doubles with Cleveland, all-time leader, and 50 triple doubles with the Lakers, all-time leader. And I think he's the only guy to do that for two teams and be the leader in triple doubles. Not surprising, it's LeBron. Um, and I think they might be okay, if they get healthy. If Reeves gets healthy, he's out for a long time. LeBron has missed time, and Luka's missing time now. So wake me up at the end of the season and tell me who's healthy.
Hmm. Exactly. That's what it usually comes down to. Switched to hockey. And the NHL has a little time off. They're in Milan. It's not quite the same. You asked me without, the Red
Oh,
Army
Russia.
team, not the Russians. But the Canadians make for a pretty decent villain. And USA won last night. Canada won last night. I know it's like the first round, but
Yeah, well, it's very interesting though to see, for example, Brady Kachuk scored a goal on a pass from his brother, Matt. I
I
mean, Matt,
mean,
that's
Keith
cool.
Kachuk's got to be beaming with his kids in the Olympics.
Exactly. Brock Nelson had 2 goals. Jack Hughes had 2 assists. Austin Matthews had a goal, and Connor Hellebuck got the nod to play goalie, the Winnipeg Jets goalie, who's real good. So they beat Latvia 5-1. I don't think Latvia is high on the totem pole, but they did beat them. As always, that first game, Jack Hughes had 2 assists. It's great to see all these Americans now at such a high level. I'll say it again. When I was a little kid, there was only one American in the NHL, and it was Tommy Williams, who played for the Bruins. And he was like a star. People in America, he was a star. I was a Ranger fan, but he was a star. Now, it's incredible the talent they have. And as for Canada, they beat Czechia. I didn't even know Czechia would have a hockey team in the
I
Olympics,
know, right?
but that's just me. Um, but this Macklin Celebrini, I don't know if you followed him at all, but he's the first teenage NHL player to score a goal for Canada in the Olympics. And he had an incredible tip in this high. These guys are so talented nowadays. It's no longer your sticks on the ground, you're trying to deflect
No,
it.
of course not.
It was McCarr, the real good defenseman, took a slap shot. It had to be 3 feet off the ground, and this teenager was able to tip it in. It's just incredible what these guys can do today. But they won 5-0. Jordan Binghamton is the goalie, the guy from the Blues. Mark Stone had a goal on an incredible pass from Marner, like a flip pass, so right in front of the goal. Um, and the best goal of the night, I think, was Crosby to McDavid to McKinnon for a goal.
Not bad. Look at that line.
It could be the highest scoring trio on one goal in the history of hockey. I'm not sure. And McDavid had 3 assists. So, I assume, I don't know, I assume it's going to be US and Canada. But, that's a good start for both teams. But again, it's the first game, it's the first round. It's
Sure.
not the preliminaries, as they call them. And
Yeah,
so
the
the
medal
both those
round not
teams are
till
on,
next week, right?
yeah, both of them are on their way to advancing, which we would expect they would anyway, no
Sure.
matter who they're playing.
Yep, medal round next week. And you wanted to finish with a little baseball. I mean, pitchers and catchers have as
Just one, yeah, just one baseball thing. And I think this is fine because I think he did come back at the end of the year to pitch well. Justin Verlander, who was horrific during the first half of the year or whatever, I think he had 4 or 5 really good starts at the end of the year. And he just signed a 1 year, $13 million contract with the Detroit Tigers.
hmm
What goes around comes around, I guess. But
right,
uh,
exactly.
but again, good for him because he did pitch well at the end of the year. I think people were laughing at him. I can't remember what his ERA was, but it was sky high, and
I
he
was in his
wasn't throwing.
forties. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, he's 43 now. So look, I give him credit. I think he could still do it based on what he did at the end of the season. And normally it would be the other way around, right? If you're getting older, it would be you're good the first five,
and
six,
then you
seven, eight
tank. Yeah,
starts, then you fall off a cliff. He was the exact opposite, so I think he still has it in him
was a
to
Hall of
do some
Famer.
good for the Tigers.
Sure, sure. And baseball's getting underway real soon. Real soon. Veterans reporting either today or tomorrow. Good stuff, my brother. You can catch Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. Also, this podcast on YouTube every Friday or Saturday morning in the off season. And you can follow me on Joe
Yeah.
Staszak at 975 on Twitter X or on Instagram at Joe Staszak 4799. Thanks for watching, folks. We appreciate it. Steven, good job. Catch you next week.
Always a pleasure,
You
Joe.
too, pal. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.